your number. You'll be available? Okay.
Hello, hello, hello. How are you? Hey, welcome back. Welcome
Hello.
back. We're back here. Okay, so we had our interview with one of the school board candidates yesterday, Jimmy Witherspoon, for District 5. Again, we will encourage everyone to go to the NAACP, that they're having a meeting tonight with all of the District 5 members. And so we, after we do our show, mosey on over there. We'll meet you over there. We tend to come on there and put questions in the chat because we pay attention.
They're gonna let us.
They better let us. We have good burning questions, right? So we're back here this time, but before we start and introduce our special guest, we want to take the time to again highlight and mention the awful shooting that happened 2 days ago in Texas, where 19 babies were stolen, and 2 remarkable, loving teachers were taken away from us as well. And it's important that we highlight that because we want to continue to push this story, so much so that the United States Senate and the United States House, which have already, did some traction with legislation for gun laws. But obviously we know that this is very, very important. And the more we talk about it, the more pressure we put, the more our elected officials will pay attention. So we want to extend our condolences to the families, friends, everybody, the whole community that was affected there. Our hearts bleed from them. As a parent, as also Sandra, and probably our special guest here, it's a hard thing to drop your kids off to school. My heart has been tightening up ever since. We do have about 2 or 3 weeks left in school here in Broward County. And it's heart-wrenching to have to drop off your children and for whatever reason may not be able to come home. And so it's important that we highlight that. So we wanted to extend our condolences, and we're going to move into meeting our wonderful guests. So we have we try to interview as many people as we can, and we're just delighted that we're able to interview Mayor Anna Ziade. Ziade.
Yes.
From North-Lauderdale. And listen, we all about Broward County. Okay, so North-Lauderdale's part of Broward County. We was like, yes, we got to reach out to her. She's running for re-election for mayor at large. And so we want to, have an opportunity to talk to her, see what her plans are, what her goals are for the city of North-Lauderdale. It's a very diverse city. And we're anxious to talk to her and hear what she has going on and why she ran the first time and why she's running for re-election again. And co-host, you have anything to add before we give it over to our guest?
No, just that there's some new information that's coming out about the situation that happened in Texas.
Yes.
There's some conflicting information that's coming out. There's some disturbing information that's coming out, and
Yes.
we're gonna probably do a short after this around 6:15
Yes.
once we're done with the interview and talk a little bit about that, because there's some disturbing information that's coming out of there. Mm-hmm. It's unfortunate, and then of course we don't only just spotlight problems. We just kind of think of possible solutions that if we had some authority or whatever, we may implement. So we not only will we discuss the problem, we'll think about, we'll just put some suggestions out there that we think people can do. But my condolences to that family. I can't imagine. And I have children that go to 2 different schools. So I was just thinking, like, what if something happened and who do I go get first? Like, how does this happen? And right. I mean, it's really hard. Like, I really was thinking, like, am I going to take them to school today? So yeah, it's definitely a tough time. And my heart goes out to those parents.
Right.
Yep, absolutely.
It is terrible.
Cool.
It's terrible.
So we will leave the floor over to Mayor the North-Lauderdale. We want you to introduce yourself, talk a little bit about yourself, why you ran, why you're running now, and we'll go into questions afterwards.
Okay. I am Mayor Anna Ziade. I am a 30-plus year resident here in North-Lauderdale, but I'm a Broward girl. I grew up here in Broward County, in Oakland Park, actually. Both my husband and I did. I am the daughter of Cuban immigrants. And so I ran before. Actually, I ran for commission twice before. Early on, when it's a couple years into moving in here, and then 6 years ago I ran, and I was encouraged to run again. I was that mom. My kids are now grown adults. I'm a grandmother now. So I was that mom that even though I worked, I was involved in PTA, at church, everything, because that's just my nature. But growing up, my parents were the complete opposite. You know, English obviously was their second language, so I interpreted things for them. Um, you know, if we needed to go grocery shopping, it was Miami every weekend. There was nothing here in Broward County to go to, or, you know, very limited. You know, we didn't have a Sedano's. The first one I think was in Hollywood, so we'd go to Sedano's when that eventually opened up. And even then, I think I was already an adult when that happened. So luckily, we have one here in North-Lauderdale, which I love. We have several grocery stores actually that serve our diverse community, because our community is not only Hispanic, it's Jamaican, Haitian, from the West Indies, a little bit of everything. And our restaurants and our even our supermarkets, our mom and pop owned or started places that and so that's North-Lauderdale. And you know, our commission didn't represent that for a very long time, and little by little it did, but they never had a Hispanic person run in office. They never had a female. I'm only the second female to be on the dais. They had a woman as a commissioner back in the 70s. So that was one of the things that I mentioned in our hallway in City Hall. There's a picture of every mayor that has served. City Hall is also a precinct. So when I would tell people walking in, women especially, obviously, where do you see yourself in all those pictures? Where do you see yourself? I'm that mom. I'm that mom that sent my kids to school here in the city, that was involved, that as they grew up, I grew with them. I was North Area High School representative, ESOL rep, SAC staff, all of that, and then some. And then just as they grew older, I moved on to the next level of, engagement, so to speak. So so North-Lauderdale needed representation in, female and as well as Hispanic. It just didn't happen. So
you have a servant's heart. You've been serving through the schools with your children. You've been serving in the community. I mean,
yes.
Those things that you mentioned, I was in PTO also, SAC staff,
exactly.
Zone meetings and stuff like that.
Right.
And so that's important, because that to me shows the foundation of a servant who has always been there for the community, been there for the people. So
yes.
naturally you would just go ahead and graduate on into serving
right.
more and being a voice, especially for women and women of color, to be there, because representation matters. We talk about that all the time, myself and my co-host all the time, that representation matters. Broward County is a majority county. I think people tend to not realize
right.
how much diverse we are and how important representation is. And so we want to be able to have a seat at the table on all levels.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
it's important that we do that. So that's awesome. That we really love that. That's what we preach this all the time.
Right.
We preach that all the time. So we
right.
always encourage women. We always encourage young women. We always encourage Black women, Hispanic women. If you have the heart to do it, run for office, because I think it's clear that we are really good at what we do, and we're good collaborators. And so,
yes.
There's a need for us all the time. So, co-host, you want to go with your first question, darling?
No, so she, when she said she was a parent, the child of Cuban immigrants, I was like, how did they end up in North-Lauderdale? That was my question, because I grew up in Miami, and and it's always interesting to see like the migration patterns of folks, right? Like, how is it that they decided, not to stay, in a very comfortable community in Miami, because everybody's there. You get your café con leche every day, and you get your cafecito at like 3:00 in the afternoon.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then so to make a decision to move into a different part of the county, like, how was that for them and how was that for you?
Well, interesting enough, my parents came as the revolution was taking place. So my sister came by way of the Peter Pan flights through the Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm.
Then about 6 or 7 months later, my mother got her papers, but not my brother yet. So she waited until he got his and then claimed my sister. And then the following year in 1961, my father came. So they came little by little, and through the Episcopalian Church, which is another story in and of itself. My family was Catholic, very Catholic. My father's family in Spain has, the family coat of arms, and he has a cardinal that was an uncle. Through the Episcopalian Church, they handed out no questions asked what your religion or anything like that. And my father said that's what religion should be. And so they converted to becoming Episcopalian. And through the church, they moved him out to California, of all places, and in Van Nuys, the Valley. So I am a Valley girl. But, we were out there, and, Cubans in California, Mexican is the predominant Hispanic community that's out there. But all of our family was here, based out of Miami, and just one aunt that was here in Oakland Park. And so, because, it was hard. We had no family out there, really. We had friends, but no family. So moved back here into Fort Lauderdale. Well, actually, Oakland Park, what's now considered Oakland Park.
Okay.
And so that's how we ended up at Oakland Park. My husband and I ended up buying our first home here in North Lauderdale, and that's where we've been ever since. So we've been married.
That's a good story. And that's a story of a lot of immigrants, is that a lot of times the family doesn't come at the same time. And that's how our family came. We didn't all come at the same time. My mom was actually the last one to come because she had to wrap up all the businesses in the Bahamas or whatever. So we came different years. So it took about 2 years for us all to be reunited. So I understand that that immigrant story too. So that's really amazing. Yeah. So I see that North Lauderdale is a very multicultural community, right? I mean, the numbers is like 50% African American, and even within that number, there's like a lot of ethnicities and cultural differences in that group. There's about almost 30% Hispanic or something like that. Yes. And actually, in terms of white folks, that's the smallest group in terms of numbers in North Lauderdale. So how is that, being an elected official in such a mixed, diverse community?
It's funny because when we moved here, that's not how the numbers were in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how the change was. But
so we've seen the city evolve, which is great. I'm all for that. I love the culture that we have here in North Lauderdale. But like I said, it wasn't properly represented. And even with the Hispanic community, we have, one of our commissioners is Mexican. We have from San Salvador, El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, just from everywhere. So, and like I said, that's what our mom and pop restaurants are all that. So if you want to have oxtail, I make oxtail, but I make it with a red sauce. But I can go to a Jamaican restaurant, which we have a number of them, and get oxtail any day of the week that I want. Absolutely. If I want red beans and rice, I can go to the Salvadorian restaurant, which is right around the corner, that has an amazing churrasco. And because they're so close to the border, they also sell tortillas, handmade tortillas with it. But I can also go to a food truck that may happen to be in our neighborhood, because our city is so kind of broken up, because we had part of unincorporated Broward annexed into the city. Okay. So we have little niches on the east side of town that are kind of separated by 441. So we'll get food trucks that'll go into those neighborhoods. So if we want Mexican food, we can go, and it's all authentic. It's just, like I said, anything and everything. It's just amazing. And Haitian, don't even get me started with that. We have an incredible Haitian bakery literally around the corner from my house that always has a line outside the door.
And let me tell you, I drive all the way over there to get Sandra, you know which one it is. They have the best patties. They have the best bread. Yeah. Listen, I already know that everybody knows that is the restaurant you go to go get your Haitian stuff.
So we're gonna go down this Haitian bread hole for a minute, right? Because like there's a Haitian bakery near my mom's house because she lives in Little Haiti. And when I buy it hot, I literally eat the loaf.
The whole thing.
and I don't eat the outside, I like eat the inside because it's nice and warm and soft.
Oh,
So I like literally eat the loaf. So I'm like, okay, this is something that I gotta do like once every couple of months because I'm gonna sit and eat the whole loaf of bread because it's just that good.
Let me tell you, because I live in Parkland, but when I used to do like PTO, I would go all the way over there, order all our food for the teacher appreciation. When I tell you that's the go-to place in North Lauderdale, that is the go-to place in North Lauderdale because we love our Haitian food, honey. Our Haitian cards would be taken away if we did not know the Haitian spots. Okay.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So the Haitian community has just been so amazing to us. And so it wasn't until I got on the commission that we had the proclamation for Haitian heritage and acknowledging Haitian Flag Day. Amazing. And so it's literally the entire month you see the flags with pride on cars, on, every restaurant and, literally on neighborhoods in their houses. You just see it everywhere. And so our religious organizations as well have multicultural languages that they preach the word in every language because ultimately at the end of the day, we're all children of God.
That's right.
You cut us, we're all going to bleed red.
That's right.
So it makes no difference, but that just goes to show you how our community has evolved just in that alone.
Okay, amazing. So you said you've been in the city about 30 years and you've seen the changes. With those changes, what do you see is the need for the community of North Lauderdale, and how is it that you believe you can serve those needs as mayor?
Well, like I said, I've seen the change, or should I say the lack of change. I think there was a lot of complacency. And so with that, we didn't move forward. And so as a result of that, structurally, we have issues, infrastructure, just things weren't done that should have been done. Again, I think it was a matter of complacency that weren't brought forward. And that's okay because, that's just how it was. But as we have changed and evolved and the community has evolved, we need to be more inclusive. We need to have those proclamations. We need to acknowledge those days. We last year changed. We always celebrated Columbus Day, had it off, which is, I don't even think schools have that day off anymore. So we switched out Columbus Day for Juneteenth. So
and they don't call it Columbus Day anymore. It's called Indigenous Peoples Day or something like that.
So we switched out. And now we celebrate Juneteenth and give our staff the day off. But we do acknowledge it, and we have within the city, we don't do, we're a small city, so we are limited funding wise. We have a large 55 and older community that pay little to no taxes. Mm-hmm. So when you think about it, we're 3.4 mile radius. I have 8 schools in my city. 5 public schools and 3 charter schools. And so, between SROs and doing things, to have everything multicultural in 3 languages when we put everything out. So if you go to our website, all our paperwork is put out in 3 languages, automatic. And we were doing that before the county did it. I brought it to their attention because they hadn't done it. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm pushing it with the schools. The schools are a little slower with that. But, when the madness occurred in Washington, D.C., the schools.
Which of the madness? There was a whole lot of madness. Which one of the madnesses?
The madness where they
the insurrection.
Exactly.
Okay. The insurrection.
So when that happened, the schools put out a paper in English and Spanish on how to address this with your children and things like that. My argument to them, which to this day has yet to be responded, was, we've got people from other countries that fled their country because that happened. How do you address that with that culture? And, you know, those are things that you have to talk to the kids about because, like I said, they left. You know, when I hear all the crazy dialect that goes on back and forth about immigration and everything, first of all, I love talking to kids because they look at me and they see a white woman. Ziade sounds Italian. So they look at me and they look at me as potentially a white woman that is Italian maybe, or who knows from where. But in that moment that I see them dozing off, quite frankly, or just not paying attention, I tell them that I am you. And they kind of look at me like, yeah, all right, whatever. Okay, yeah, you're me. Well, yeah, I am. And then I start speaking in Spanish. I speak Spanish fluently. It was my first language. I didn't learn to speak English until I went to school. That despite the fact that my family was here 4 years before I was born, because I'm the accident. 9 and 12-year difference between my siblings and I. So, but still, we're the Broward County, you know, Cubans. We have no accents. My cousins who have been here longer and live in Miami sound like they just got off the boat. Why? Because they're around that culture. If I start speaking to any family member in Spanish, after I hang up, I still have a little bit of an accent because that's just the way it is. But I am that community. I am the daughter of immigrants. And so if I can do this, so can they. Mm-hmm. And that's why I love talking to the kids. And that's why I love the diversity that we have in my city. And I embrace it so much because it is. That's how I grew up. And especially here in Broward County, that was non-existent. Mm-hmm. And so I bring that to my community, that we have programs available with Hispanic Unity. I'm bringing in immigration classes. They have their own set of immigration attorneys that will help with status, that will come in and speak to them, that will help them plan to move forward, to make them better involved residents and citizens, because they want them to eventually vote. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's the same with the Haitian community as well. Yep. I don't need to reinvent the wheel. Yeah. I need to bring it into my city. And that's why I'm so involved in other organizations, because we didn't have that.
Right. Good. So I have a question, because you said your city is 3.4 or 3.5 miles, and there are 8 schools in your area, right? And then you also said that you have a big 55 and over community. Do you have the number of students for that many schools? Because we spoke to a school board candidate yesterday, and one of the things that's being discussed is school closures because of low enrollment, right? I don't know if the mayor has anything to do with that, or you have any input or any say so, but
they don't come to us about any of that. But I can tell you, we do have more children per capita. Okay. So the majority of my schools are elementary. And then I have one school that is K through 8 that is going to be brought back to K through 5, because I have under enrollment in my one middle school that's Broward County Middle School. But I have 3 charter schools that have middle school. Mm. I have one charter school that's a high school. My kids, we are our high school, designated high school for the majority of my city, is Coconut Creek High School.
Okay. I think Boyd Anderson is another one of those schools.
Boyd Anderson is another one.
Like Piper or something like that.
But Creek was on the verge of being shut down because of under enrollment. So what do they do with schools that parents don't want to send their kids to, have under enrollment, aren't known as the best schools? They make them a magnet school. Boyd Anderson, Coconut Creek, Northeast High School, Fort Lauderdale High School. You know, that's just what they do, which is great, because these magnet programs are opening the eyes of our kids, entrepreneurship, nursing, any type of medical, as well as ROTC programs that, then move on to military if that's what they want to do. Trade schools, which nobody ever talks about. I went to an event yesterday where one of this, it was the Hispanic vote event, and one of the speakers was the president of the Democratic caucus here in Broward County. He's the first African American elected as president here in Broward County.
I think you're talking about Rick Hoy.
Rick Hoy?
Yes.
Okay.
We know
So
him.
he spoke about his story, child of immigrants. Also stated that when he was in high school, his mother talked to him about going into trade school, and the stigma behind trade school, my generation, and obviously his, was like, trade school. You go to trade school when you don't, know enough or have what it takes to go to college. That is completely the opposite. There are kids that go to trade school that now make six figures.
Oh yeah.
Because they're airplane mechanics,
Mm-hmm.
or, just all sorts of things that you don't even think about. Broward Up is bringing that forward. So, these are things that our kids aren't aware of. Brace advisors, in all honesty, I think stick to the elite, for lack of a better term, and don't share or have the opportunity to share information with our kids or our communities, for that matter, that they can go back to school and get certifications. Broward College was offering free certifications. I got a couple certifications through Broward College. I mean, it's again, it's the information that's out there that's not being divulged to the community, which is what I'm trying to do.
So my experience was a little bit different because I actually went to high school when they still had trades in high schools, right?
Right.
Workshop, they had
Right.
like home ec, the girls learned how to sew. I learned how to type in middle school and all type of stuff, right? So I went to school when they still had trades. And then, then they convinced people to vote for the lottery because the lottery was supposed to add so many programs and all this stuff to the school. That all of a sudden there was a problem with the band, and there wasn't no extracurricular activity. They took out all the organizations. So since the lottery that was supposed to make the schools better, basically I can't even, the high school that I went to, we literally had to sponsor a bus for the band to get to the homecoming football game. And I'm like, wait, what? You know what I mean? Like, so this is what's happening, even though, again, and then every time I turn around, there's
It's
a new
still
lottery.
happening.
I don't play, right? But there's a new lottery game, and so I'm like, clearly y'all making some money. So how is it that this money is not going into the schools, right? So and so the point I really want to make about that was that in terms of the trade, so I had classmates who started taking trades from like middle school because they had some programs in middle school,
Right.
and they're all entrepreneurs now. They make more money than me, and I'm a whole lawyer. I got a JD and an MBA, and they're doing way better than I am
Right.
from the trade. So we definitely
Right.
should not sleep on that. And then I had a couple friends who had children young, and so they started doing hair. You know what I mean? So the hair game is a whole nother situation, right? Didn't go a day in college. They're making wigs and styling hair, doing braids. And again, if I probably need a loan, I need to call one of them. And I went to college, right? Because I have to get a job to use the skills that I particularly have, right?
Sure.
So yeah, we definitely and I'm sure that's probably not something for you specifically as the mayor to do, but but being with other elected officials, these are definitely conversations that you can have, that this is something that absolutely needs to make its way
Right.
back into the public school system, because college ain't necessarily it for everybody. And
Exactly.
and there are a lot of us, we went and we like, yo, I should have learned how to do some braids too, because at least every time I need some money, I can go find somebody had a braid and make some today,
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, we definitely need to do better with the VOTAC and doing educational programs in school. So that's my little rant, because I got a problem with them messing with a lot of money. So
Listen, what I have found is that whenever you get funding, you get taken away funding.
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah.
never going to be like this. It's always going to be like,
Right.
because that's what happened with the lottery.
You mentioned a couple of things about the school, and I love the fact that you well aware of the schools in your city, what the enrollment, low enrollment. One of the things that you mentioned, and I see that there is a disconnect between the school board, which are elected officials, and you as an elected official in terms of coming together and making sure that you're part of the conversation where the schools are concerned. And it appears to me that you are very, obviously because of PTO and all that foundation you have, you're very passionate about that. And that's some of the things you want to have a conversation about. So what is it as far, because we're not elected officials, we don't know how that works, what the hierarchy is.
Right.
But what does that look like, and what as a mayor you can do to foster a relationship with the school board members, and also because you're on the ground and you know what's going on in your schools. Like, how does that work, and what are some of the things that you have done in the past and will continue to do if you're
reelected? We have a quarterly principals meeting with the principals in our schools. And so that's where we have the conversations with them of what they're doing, what they're planning, what they need, because they do come to us for whatever, if they do need a bus ride or something like that, or our stage because they're having some type of program, or, things of that nature. Our summer camp is so large that we actually rent out one of our elementary schools to have our summer camp there, and we still have a waiting list.
It's a city sponsored summer camp. Is a city sponsored? Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
It is. And my children, I have pictures of my kids when they attended. It is by far, and I can really say this full-heartedly, by far the best summer camp program in all of Broward County for the money and for what you get out of it. I personally could not have done what they did with my kids as far as trips and things like that. And it's still true to this day that they do with the kids that we have.
And I was going to ask about that, whether or not the camp was affordable, because my children, I live in city of Miramar, and they go to the city of, well, if you get there the first day before 11 o'clock, you can go to that summer camp.
Right.
But if you're not there on the first day of registration before 11 o'clock, camp is closed for all of the weeks. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
right.
That was the other thing, because the cost. Because I remember, I don't want to call out no places, no camps that I had the kids go to, but I was like, this a mortgage payment, the car note, this all the bills for the whole month.
Absolutely.
In order to take for the kids in the summer, it was prohibitive. And it wasn't until I was able to get them to the city, I got lucky and got them in a couple of weeks. And then my son started playing sports with their police athletic league with the PAL organization, so they got to know him. So when they were coming out, they was like, you camp registration starts, get here at like 9 o'clock.
Right.
On Saturday, right? So that's how we were able to get them in into camp. So that's what I was going to ask about the cost of it. Like, is it affordable for
Absolutely.
For the parents 100%. That kind of work, and then even if you work, if you got more than one child, the summers are expensive, and it's anywhere from 9 to 11 weeks of summer. So
So we have extended programs with our summer. So we have the regular summer camp. And then we have the extended weeks leading up to when school actually starts.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the older kids, we have a sports camp. But then we also bring the kids back. We have CITs, which are counselors in training.
Okay.
They don't get paid, but they do get service hours, and they're restricted because of their age. Obviously we're not going to give a classroom to a counselor in training. But then they eventually, as they get older, become a counselor, that they have a summer paying job that, otherwise, what are they going to do for the summer?
Right.
So they get to go on the trips and get paid for it as well.
Mm-hmm.
But we go as far back as, I want to say, even like January, that we start early registration.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a discount.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a discount up to a certain point, and then it's regular amount. But we also offer scholarships. We have a foundation within the city that we offer scholarships, because we do summer camp, we do a spring camp, and we do a winter camp, as well as the teacher work days and the day off from school and that type of thing. So, but you know, my kids participated in all of that early on because my husband and I worked. I've always worked. I've never been a stay-at-home mom. You know, I was blessed in that my parents being older, my children never had to go to daycare. But for summer, I'm not going to stick them with their grandparents and watch telenovelas all day, you know, with them. You know, I'm not going to do that to them, you know. And so we put them in the summer camp programs and they loved it. They did so much stuff and they still do.
Right.
You know, they do educational stuff and they do fun stuff. And that, you know, it's a great balance. And it's not just things here in Broward County. They'll go to Palm Beach for the day, or they'll go to Miami-Dade to Metro Zoo or you know, the aquarium.
The aquarium, yeah,
you know,
and Frost Museum.
Exactly. So it's all of that and then some. And then, you know, but then we also have our teen club, and it's called the Talk Club, but the acronym it's the Tween Club. That is also very reasonably priced, and they have their stuff that they do on Fridays and Saturdays that they can get service hours, and they also do their own fundraising to do their annual trip to Washington, D.C.
Nice.
That's a lot of good things are happening in Lauderdale. In the mayor's office, in the commission has something to do with all of these activities, right? The summer camp, the cost, providing the facilities.
Sure.
She's like,
so,
sure.
So we have a question in the chat, but I have a question to ask. So I know that some cities help pay for their SROs in their schools. Does North Lauderdale also pitch in and help pay for?
We have to.
So let me ask a different question before that. Let me ask a different question before that, because I was going to ask, do you have your own police department or are you contracted with BSO?
We're part of BSO.
Okay.
All right. So now you can.
So all schools. So that I wanted to say some schools. So and my second question before we go to Tamiko's question is that the head of the NAACP here in Broward, or is it Fort Lauderdale? I think she's Fort Lauderdale. Marsha Ellison. She is spearheading for all 31 cities where she wants them to sign. Sign an agreement for civil citations for the young kids not getting arrested, not being.
We have that here because it's part of BSO.
Okay, and you as the mayor have signed on to that, and
yes, North Lauderdale is part of that.
Perfection. Just wanted to ting. I got to check my box off.
We're ahead of it. I'm ahead of it.
Loving it. Loving it. Okay, so Tamiko's question was, what is the safety plan for your city?
I'm sorry.
What is your safety plan for your city, Tamiko? You need to be, if you can you be more specific in terms of what do you mean by safety plan? And I'm not sure
if there was some sort of emergency situation. What is there something that the city have in place, or you just call BSO and since that's what they do, they take care of it? So
obviously 911 is the see something, say something, but we have had issues here in North Lauderdale. I'm not going to lie. Sadly, all of the arrests and all of the things concerned with the bad things in North Lauderdale are not North Lauderdale residents. They're people that end up coming into the city because from somewhere else that happen to be at the city, whether it was a party, whether it was narcotics, whatever the case is, it just happens. We have lockdown and we have everything available to us through BSO. So whether it's K9 helicopter, and we're on it. We're such a small city. All of our deputies are at schools. So we are limited as far as patrolling, but we get a call, they're there. So again, we're 3.4 miles. I literally can go anywhere in my city within 5 minutes and be there if it's that emergency. And so BSO is like that. We last year brought into the budget because, when budget comes around, we have our workshops and everybody has their own wish list. Every department has a wish list. Every commissioner has a wish list. I have a wish list. So when BSO came around with their wish list, my question to BSO was, when BSO first came into the city, we had a certain number of people and we had a certain number of deputies. BSO's been with our city quite a number of years. over 10, I want to say, probably even over 20. We had the same number of deputies now, well, I should say last year, that we had when they first took over 20 years ago. Our population has grown exponentially.
Right.
Why has our deputy, so we did in our budget, and will again, as we progress, bring in more deputies, because that's how it should be. When we had our own police department, people knew who the police officers were. So I encourage the coffee with the cop, the, getting out there and meeting your residents. And it's happening little by little. I'm encouraging things like, we have a pizza place here in North-Lauderdale that has a challenge. They have a ginormous pie. This thing is like a yard wide, this pie. I don't even know that they can get a box for it. But they have a challenge if you can eat it within 30 minutes, 2 people. And when I saw that, I thought, gosh, what a great thing to do BSO with our fire department. We have our own fire department. And so that on June 24th, that's going to be the challenge. They have teams set up because they're that competitive that are going to come in. So I have a
question about that before you go on.
Yeah.
I have a question about that before you go on. So is it going to be like a fire department and a police officer with a community person, or is it going to be them against each other?
Them against each other, but we're also encouraging our residents to bring their own teams in and do the same thing. We have churches that already have teams putting together. Okay. So again, community involvement.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really important.
Absolutely.
And I have a question about, so you said you guys are going to put in the budget to get more deputies in. I got
so last year we brought in 3 more deputies last year.
Okay. So in terms of a lot of most of the cities, well, not most of, so one of the things with the cities is like, it depends on if it's a city that has homeowners or renters, right? And that's how it is that they get some of the money that they need to do the things that they do. So is North-Lauderdale one of those cities that has enough homeowners in order for them to be able to, because there's some cities I know that got some problems when it comes to who they can hire and what kind of law enforcement they get, because it's just a city with more renters than they.
And that's what we struggle with. That's what we struggle with. We have a lot of apartment complexes, and as I stated, we have a lot of seniors that pay little or no taxes, and the same thing with Homestead. And unfortunately, we are what's considered an entitlement city, which means we have a population under 50,000. Cities that have 50,000 people and above get funding directly from the federal government. Mm-hmm. We, unfortunately, have to rely on the county that trickles down from the state. So
would you say that that's one of your major challenges in your city of North-Lauderdale?
COVID money is a perfect example of that. I was part of a team from the Broward League of Cities that negotiated, if that's what you really want to call it, funding from the county. One of our county commissioners voted against giving the city's money.
Which one was that?
That was when the state gave the COVID funding.
Yeah, but which county commissioner voted against it? Are you allowed to say? That's
well, I'll just say they're no longer a county commissioner because they ran for another office. So that being said, whereas our other county commissioner, because we have 2, did vote in our favor.
Okay.
So when we negotiated through Broward League of Cities, the team negotiated to get the funding that was supposed to go to the cities. We were only given a third. And of the third that we did receive, it had to be used specifically for, I want to say there were like 7 categories that we could use it for. The percentage was a certain percentage as well, but it was specific for that. One of the things was nursing homes. We have no nursing homes in North-Lauderdale.
I was confused because it's very little facilities in Broward.
Yes,
that would be okay. Mm-hmm. So does that mean that because we have no nursing homes, we can apply it towards something else. Food giveaways, that type of thing. Yes. Anything that's on part of the 7, yes.
Okay.
Great. I'm okay with that. I'm on board. Representing small cities, I'm on board with that. Well, the county hired 2 auditors because if you don't spend properly, you got to eventually give that money back because it's state and federal funding. So they hired 2 auditors. Well, depending on who you called is what answer you got. So when we called, we heard one city, a sister city in the area, was giving away gift cards for groceries. Holy cow, absolutely. Let's do that. Okay, let's just, cross our T's, dot our I's. Let's call, make sure that we're filling out the proper paperwork. We were told we're not allowed to do that.
I'm sorry, what? So
yeah. So we had to give funds back.
You're kidding.
After only getting a third.
And dividing it amongst 31 cities, mind you.
You had to give back money?
We had to give back money. We're not the only city that had to give back money. And I didn't even get the best part. The best part was that the county received those funds, put it in an interest-bearing account, and charged us an administrative fee to allocate the funds.
No way.
We had close to,
I don't mean to laugh. I'm sorry.
We had close to between 1 and 2 months to spend the money before they cut it off. How do we explain to residents that we only have a certain amount of time within which to give money for rental, for food, for masks, for any of that? And we have neighboring cities that have larger populations, that have a larger tax base, that are able to do these things, and we can't. So I get the phone calls of, well, such and such city's doing that, even amongst my commissioners. And I have to explain to them that sadly, this is what happened, and this is how it happened, and this is why I'm so vocal. And not everybody likes the fact that I'm vocal. Mm-hmm. So amongst my county commission, amongst my sister cities within Broward County, they know how to pronounce my last name. They know I'm a Ziade, not a Ziade. But because I am that voice representing that this is BS. This is BS. My city is struggling. My schools are struggling. Why? I had literally this weekend, I had a partial roof cave in at one of my schools because of the raining.
So I had said it was a roof yesterday, but it turned out it was the ceiling, but it was still a problem with the building. So now there's so you guys have
Friday that happened.
Oh, so there's another one.
Did any of nobody reached out to me.
Who's your school board person?
What district are you?
L'Oreal.
You gotta tell it. Who's your
L'Oreal is my school board representative.
District 4
is my representative.
Oh,
so you send her email. You send her email.
I'll send her email because she's my district representative too. Let me send her email.
I forwarded the text that I received from my city manager, who was the contact person, because that's how our city is run. Sent me the photograph and the information that because of the hard rain, a child was injured, was taken, but not anything that, they were taken just as a precaution, but they were okay. They immediately came out and fixed it, and they are currently in the process of fixing the school roof. This is what's wrong. This is what's wrong. So
they're fixing the roof while the kids are in school? How does that work?
Yeah, how's that working?
Okay.
In one of my other schools, when they did the roof caught fire.
Okay.
Yeah, fun stuff like that.
See, and that's the thing and that's why I asked you about, Mayor, about the conversations between elected officials and how because there has to be some sort of collaboration.
Absolutely.
So there needs to be this communication between elected
Absolutely.
officials, especially
100%.
when you all are governing some of the same areas, some of the same cities.
But they're not governed by us.
Common goals.
They're not
governed by us. They're governed by the county. So when Rickards Middle School, which I attended when I went to school, when that collapse happened, I sent out an email to our government liaison asking for a maintenance list of all of my schools.
Did you get it yet?
Did you get it? So, wow.
Lord.
The mayor of North-Lauderdale
I brought it up again when the Friday incident happened.
Wow.
I went to an event on Monday introducing us to the school superintendent. I was the first one to talk to her afterwards, and that was the first conversation I had. Oblivious. I get it. Listen, we're a large school district. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of stuff.
Not if a roof fell and a child was like potentially hurt. That should have been something you was on point right away.
Exactly.
Like you should have gotten a phone call as the mayor and say, "Hey,
we're
aware. I know you're aware. We're working together. We're gonna keep in touch." And
I think she's saying the superintendent didn't know about it on Monday, and it happened on Friday, and the kid got hurt. She should have known about that.
Right. And so I even gave the benefit of the doubt when I walked away from that conversation, because I did walk away. I just had to walk away, because I always tell everybody, when I'm mad when I start yelling in Spanish. And it was a Spanish organization that filled the room. So I chose to walk away and give the benefit of the doubt that maybe she had reached out to my city manager. No. Mm-mm. So yeah, I'm.
So who's your county commissioner?
Now it's Moskowitz temporarily, and Michael Udine, who I have to say has been amazing for us. Michael Udine has brought forth to our city and been inclusive of our city 100% all the time. Any event, anything that we are doing, he is there personally. I want to say 95%. And if he's not there, somebody from his group is. And so I really have to commend him, because he doesn't have to be. He's got literally a sliver of our city. A sliver. And when I mean a sliver, I mean a sliver. So.
Okay. But so Moskowitz, that's like what? That's going to be 8? Is that 8? Is that going to be? Is that district 8 now?
So currently running for the position, as far as I know, is Mayor of Lauderdale Lakes, Hazel Rogers.
Oh, and Gitel. Nicholas
Yes.
Ruiz. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And which I've recently met Gitel, and I've known Hazel. So when I became mayor, I leached onto
so that's not 8. That's the other one.
Other lady mayors. And so we actually have a Broward County elected lady mayors. We try to do it monthly breakfast, where we can commiserate in some instances, because we're still not always taken seriously, or I hate to say it, if you're vocal, you're bitchy. Mm-hmm. Or whatever the case is. And if you're not, you're mousy and whatever. I choose to be vocal, so I guess I'm on the bitchy side. But you don't ask, you don't get. That's my strategy for everything that I bring to my city. Everything.
Closed mouth don't get fed. We know that.
Right. And I did have a last question. What about the utilities? How do you get your utilities, like light, water, and stuff like that?
So we have our own utilities
In that small city?
However, the part that was annexed in is through the county. So we have a small area that is county, but we have our own utilities. We do source it out for services and billing and the meter reading and all of that. But that is something that is being looked at because I quite frankly do have concerns. I asked for an audit.
She's still waiting. You know what? I mess with you, Mayor. I do. I have to say, I've spoken to several elected officials and candidates, and I got to tell you, I like you. I really do. I like how you roll. I really do like how you roll, sis. I mean, I don't mean to use the colloquial language, but I'm just, yes, ma'am. Yes, we need more of that. We need more.
I scare a lot of my, and I say my staff, the city staff, because I think for the first time in a long time, they're being asked questions that haven't been asked of them. And so, it's important.
But those are things
unfortunately, COVID got in the middle of a lot of that.
Yeah.
I get that. So I'm running for re-election because of that as well. But there's a lot of things that I have in place that are just starting. We're moving our city forward for the first time in a long time with a lot of things that shouldn't have. We have things that were funded before I came into office that are just now getting started. And that should not be the case. COVID aside, it should not be the case. And so I'm bringing things forward. I'm forward thinking, and I think outside the box.
And that's important. So with the utilities, you didn't say that the utilities are sourced out. You source out the billing, right?
Someone else out the billing,
and
as well as the maintenance part of our water treatment plant.
Okay.
So Mayor, give us your tell us your website, where people can donate to your campaign, where people can volunteer. Tell us, you're on social media. What's your social media?
But I had a policing question first. I actually have a policing question.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Okay. So I know you said that you're looking into adding additional officers.
We did last year, 3 officers, and gradually we're going to do that, but it's an expense. So I have to weigh I have structural stuff that has precedence before my next series of hiring.
Okay. Yeah, because the question I had about that is because when you are a smaller city and depending on the funding, do you get to keep officers that are there for a number of years, or do you end up like having, newer recruits because the cost is less? So, you may have someone that, every 4 years you're getting new officers into the community, but they don't get to know folks because, it costs more to have a more experienced officer in your city.
The answer is yes and yes.
Okay.
So, that phase, I actually have a large group that were originals, some to when we had city police, that are at that age that are retiring. So with that, we do have newer deputies, but I think that we need that because I think that we need that face, that diversity that can relate to our community. Our community, aside from the 55 and older, the residential is now evolving into, like I said, we're now grandparents. Moving into my neighborhood are young families that for the first time in a long time are like my kids were, riding bicycles out in the street, walking through the neighborhood, that type of thing. So I like that. I think change, you need to have that change, whether it's laterally or not, because someone's always going to see something that somebody, I don't know if you all are married, but this is the example I'm going to give you. You can tell your husband something and it's like, yeah. I have somebody else tell him the same thing. Oh my goodness. It's like they heard it for the first time.
Child.
And I think
it's true.
And I think that you need that every so many years, whether it's through elected officials, whether it's through police, whether it's even through teaching. I think you need that new kind of inspiration there every now and again. We have no term limits, and I think that was part of an issue too in our city.
So does the city have any input on the deputies that come in? Are you guys part of the interview process, and are you intentional about trying to make sure that you get a diverse group of deputies that are coming in? Do you have any
yes,
say?
no,
You just say,
yes, no,
yes,
yes.
so we got money for 4 guys, and they just
yes, no, yes.
Yes, no, yes.
Okay.
So, yes, we have some input as far as the higher ups, obviously our chief of police and that type of thing. No, we don't, are not part of the interview process of the newer ones coming in. But yes, they know what we're looking for in our city because we are so culturally diverse. I want deputies that speak other languages aside from English. Obviously, I want English speaking deputies, don't get me wrong, but I want deputies that speak Haitian Creole. I want deputies that speak Spanish because they need to be able to communicate with our community.
And not get frustrated because they can't.
Right.
And
right.
then things escalate.
Right.
Exactly. Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
That's wonderful.
And so, even though you're part of BSO, you have your own police chief in in North-Lauderdale.
We have a district. Every BSO city has a district chief.
District chief. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I know some of the ones that aren't contracted with BSO, they have a chief of police.
Right.
So
our chief per se, his rank is actually a captain within the BSO ranks.
Okay.
But okay. I want to tell you that our former chiefs are now colonels within BSO.
Wow.
Colonel Holmes is our former chief. Gosh, who else? I can't. His name slips my mind, and how terrible! Shame on me for not remembering. McCoy, Colonel McCoy, one of our former chiefs. So obviously we're doing something right.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
I think I crossed off. Oh, and then you had said something about the infrastructure.
Yes.
And then I was like, so they did pass some version of infrastructure bill. I think in the federal government passed something.
So ARPA funding is going towards that. But
okay.
Prior to ARPA funding, we collectively as a commission went up to Tallahassee prior to COVID and got some funding for pump. We're connected to the C14 that actually goes out from the Everglades all the way into the Intercoastal.
Okay.
We get flooding because of it.
I was going to ask about that.
We don't have a pump.
Oh, wow.
So Tamarack has 2 pumps and Coral Springs has a pump. They pump out, ours comes in.
Wow.
So as a result of funding that we received 2 years ago, and I went up this last year and pushed with Anika Onfroy, God bless her, because she's was our representative, pushed forward. You have to remember, we were without a congressperson or a senator.
And we talked about that on our show before. Like we drilled it in and said these areas. You see the reason. And these
example of what happens when you don't have representation. Yeah.
No representation, and the governor allowed that to go on for months.
Anika connected us to others that were willing to step up on our behalf.
Good.
So absolutely, it takes a village, and a village came together for us. So we have our funding for our pump, which is one of the major projects that's coming forward, as well as the lines below that are now, getting cleaned out. Our canals are getting cleaned out. The culverts they're not really bridges, but into our residential areas, that's all being cleaned out. We're building up and moving forward for the first time in a very long time.
So is that bringing new jobs into the city, or you're just using staff that's already there?
We have some staff that are already here, but we are contracting out because we don't have enough staff to do these projects. So that's
you can't hire new folks to work. So you're gonna contract with another organization, because when you contract out, it always just ends up costing more. But
well, and I'm going to tell you why. I also don't have to pay benefits for that, so I have to think of that as well. For a short-term project, it's not worth it to finance that, but it is enough money that I have to put it out to bid. So you get extra brownie points, as I like to call them, if you are a minority-owned business, if you are a business out of our city, if you are a business out of our county, you get additional points. And so that's what.
What about, do they have to provide benefits to the people they're going to hire on those jobs?
No, because it's contractual. It's that company that's doing it.
Okay, so if the company is not, what do you want the company to provide health benefits to the people, to their employees
Absolutely.
as part for them
they
to
have to check off all those lists. They have
Okay.
to check off all those lists. Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, can we give jobs? Can we ask for the bigger jobs for them to hire, do a hiring fair within our city? Absolutely, they can. And we can, the bigger projects. The smaller ones, I can't do that.
What's considered a small project? What's the budget for a small project?
Hundreds of thousands versus millions.
Okay.
Tens of thousands versus higher hundreds of thousands.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm constantly putting out there any kind of job fair. We have Teleperformance, which is a huge employer here in Broward County, that they're telemarketing as well as software. They help with benefits. If you have an 800 number that you have to call for your insurance, for your Apple products, whatever, those are the type of carriers that they have as contracts. So you can work there or you can work from home.
Mm-hmm.
They're hiring.
Mm-hmm.
I'm constantly putting out there any hiring fairs, anything that we can do for our residents, multilingual, absolutely, 100%.
Okay. Thank you very much.
That's what I bring. That's what I bring.
All right. So I guess you're going to tell them why they should vote for you, close out, and then your contact information on how they can donate.
Okay. So vote for me. You should vote for me because I am that mayor that is in everybody's business, whether they like it or not. And as a result of that, I'm able to bring things to North-Lauderdale that otherwise couldn't or hadn't thought of. I am bringing projects forward that have been stagnant, and I'm making sure that we are getting funding to bring even more things forward that people hadn't even thought of. We have art projects and the like, and we have even more that's going to be community involved, planned ahead of time. I'm about community because we are so small. We should know each other. We should know who everybody is. We should know who our law enforcement is. I am that engaged person with our community, with our schools, with our businesses, 100%, all the time, everywhere. So that's why you should vote for me.
Okay. How do they get in touch with you?
My website is Ziade for Mayor. That's ZIADE, the number 4 mayor.com. My Gmail is ziade4mayor@gmail.com. Same, ZIADE, the number 4 mayor. Volunteers, obviously funding is key to all of these races. Mm-hmm. I work smart and I work hard. I think outside the box. I'm a former paralegal. I read the fine print. And so that's how I get things done faster and better for our city, for our community. That's why.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the time. I appreciate it. You girls are always on point.
You're on mute, Nani. We can't hear you.
Is your sorry, Mayor, is your social media by the same name? Ziade?
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram,
all by the same name. Yes. Okay, perfect. Awesome. So she's on Instagram, Twitter, what we got? Facebook. She's on social media, so you all don't act like y'all can't find her now.
There's the website. Go
to the website, go in there, vote. What did you always say, co-host?
Give up that Starbucks money and donate them $5.
So donate that $5. Donate get your $10. Go on and donate. She's been in the community. She's been living here for 30 years. She's been an advocate since her kids were in school. She's been supporting. So listen, and she's been working hard for mayor. As you can see, based on what she was saying, she's been working hard for the city of North Lauderdale. So let's keep her in her seat. Please go again and vote. And remember, voting is your superpower. Don't act like that's not true, because if
it wasn't, they wouldn't try so hard to take it from you.
They sure wouldn't. And if it wasn't, they would have been passed that bill and up in Washington if your vote didn't matter. So
and the states wouldn't try to do extra stuff to make it worse.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mayor.
Thank you so much, Mayor, for being on here and for giving us a little bit of your time. We wish you good luck on your election. We know that, for me, I believe that North Lauderdale is in good hands. So we hope that you retain your seat.
And so from what I gathered, a couple people owe her some phone calls, right? So she needs to hear from the superintendent about, what happened with the roof. Lori Alherdef, school board, seat 4, needs to holler at her to address
what we doing, Lori.
And then Jason, you need to holler at her, because that's the commissioner. She said Udine was doing his part. The other person that has the other sliver of North Lauderdale
when doing their part.
Call the mayor. So
listen, and you
don't say y'all ain't know.
I would like for elected officials to please, y'all need to collaborate, get cohesive, work together.
You're representing the same people.
You represent the same people. You know what I'm saying? Some of you are more intimate with the people than the others. Y'all not got to work together.
And we got to thank Anika for helping her get that money so they can get that pump in North Lauderdale.
All right. You're right. Shout out to Onika for helping out. We appreciate you, girl.
Because Onika got to run for her seat, so she has a race coming up too in August.
Right. Yep. So make sure. All right, Mayor. Thank you so much for stopping by. We appreciate you. All right. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Have a good one.
I don't think my thing is working properly over here, but it says error message. But anyway,
that was good.
It was good. So we will meet you on the flip side, because we're gonna have another show.
We're gonna have another conversation, but it's about the nonsense.
About the nonsense.
About the nonsense, y'all.
We're gonna jump in and just jump into our next one. We'll be in there in like
3 to 5 minutes. Yep.
3 to 5 minutes. All right. We'll see you all later. Well, before we go, let me go put on our commercial.
Commercial. All right.
The commercial now. All right.